Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We're diving into some pretty wild stuff today. We've got shocking rumors, concerning reports, and a few things the mainstream media really won't talk about. Well, don't you worry, I've got you covered because we're going to dive into all of that. But first, let me know what you guys think about this new format and how we can make it even better. And now let's just jump right into it because our very first story is going to shock quite a lot of people.
We have shit for fucking poor people. Who buys our shit? People are fucking I don't buy products barely anymore. It's not healthy. Now that I know what the f- in it.
What you just heard is allegedly a recording of Campbell's vice president, Scott Bally. And you haven't even heard the worst part of this recording.
Even in a can of soup, I look at it, look at meat, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. They couldn't think for themselves. I'm like, you dumb fuck.
Now remember, that was just a small piece of a much longer recording.
Those allegations are now at the center of a lawsuit claiming the company's vice president went on an hour-long tirade attacking the company's products and employees before taking aim at its customers.
And the former employee recorded it all.
Now, some people will tell you that's just one guy going nuts, but that's just a lie. What we have here is someone on the inside saying the quiet part out loud. Of course, I don't think he thought this was ever going to come out because most of the time, this kind of knowledge stays hidden in boardrooms. But what he's saying is something we've known for a while now. I mean, we know the FDA doesn't really keep track of a lot of what goes into meat-related products.
So I've been to Kroger, I've been to Target, I've been to Walmart, I've been to Aldi, Food Lion, Piggly Wiggly, Whole Foods, and Fresh Thyme. Every single one of them has a prepackaged ground meat that will not tell you, number one, where it comes from, number two, where it's packaged, and what kind of procedures that it goes through in order for us to know that it's safe. If you ask them behind the counter, they're going to tell you there's a thing on the back, scan it with your phone, and it's going to take you to a website that the FDA has put out there. And what it's going to say is, it could either be 3D printed, it could be a cloned animal. Let's just put it out there. If that's a problem, well, TikTok, you need to check the FDA website because it says it could be. Folks, God, I gotta be careful. Let's just say this. Our food ain't food anymore.
Now, here's where it gets really scary. Thanks to some USDA regulations that kicked in back in 2022, if a product like soup uses bioengineered meat, poultry, or eggs as the main component, they don't even have to tell you on the label. Yeah, they can literally leave that part out. And just so we're all on the same page, bioengineered meat basically means that they've messed with the DNA to create something that doesn't occur naturally. And they're not required to label any of that. So you, the person eating it, have absolutely no way of knowing what was changed, modified, or engineered into that meat. And we've all seen how crazy some of those genetic modifications can get. The stuff they can insert, tweak, or enhance will shock you.
So I'll give two examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat.
Now, a VP of a multi-billion-dollar food corporation openly admits that he won't even eat their own soup because he also doesn't know what kind of bioengineered crap is going into it. But that hasn't stopped them from pumping out over 1 billion cans a year and just raking in profits like it's a victory parade. That's not just concerning, that's downright evil. They're literally feeding us God knows what and then laughing about it behind closed doors like it's some kind of twisted inside joke. And nobody is holding these people accountable.
I'm here at Aldi, and almost everything they have contains bioengineered food. ingredients. Contains a bioengineered food ingredient.
Look, I've supported RFK Jr. on his mission to clean up what we eat, and I also respect the work he's done so far. But let's be real, we are nowhere near solving this. And that's pretty depressing, because both RFK Jr. and President Trump were on the same page about cleaning up our food.
We will invest in new and modern agricultural techniques so we can have safe, healthy, high-quality foods for our families. That's where Bobby is so interested, foods. He says we're putting a lot of bad foods in our body. You look at other countries which do far less, and they're actually much healthier than we are.
Yet here we are, still knee-deep in this mess. And let's be honest, we all have a pretty good idea why this keeps happening. You see, a lot of these huge food brands are ultimately controlled by asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard. And these companies exist for one purpose: to squeeze out every last cent of profit for their investors. That's their job. That's their mindset. And nothing else even registers on their radar. They have a history of doing all kinds of shady things and ruining our food industry just to raise their profits.
Yeah, absolutely with the
There's
government.
only 4 meat packers in this whole country.
Why?
Why? Because, the first thing I'm going to do is file antitrust against them because they're all owned by BlackRock. And they're squeezing the ranchers, and they're squeezing the consumers, and they're making all the money and shifting the money upward. It's completely illegal, and they're getting away with it because they have political control.
Now, since we're already talking about how the president and even people like RFK Jr. weren't able to follow through on all their promises, we need to bring up what Marjorie Taylor Greene just exposed. You've all probably heard the talk that MTG is gearing up for a 2028 presidential run. And sure, she's denied it over and over, but that doesn't matter. A lot of people have already made up their minds. They'll just say she resigned because she's planning something bigger. But none of them will talk about what she actually exposed about our entire political system. Because while she was denying these rumors, she also admitted something huge. You can be the president of the United States of America and still get nothing done if Congress blocks everything you try to push forward. And this goes both ways. It doesn't matter what legislation you draft. If the party leadership doesn't like it, they'll never even bring it up for a vote.
My bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census counting Americans only to draw new districts, making English the official language of the U.S., making it a felony to medically trans a minor, and other bills like eliminating capital gains taxes on the sale of your primary home and eliminating H-1B visas, just sit. They all sit collecting dust. That's how it is for most members of Congress bills. The Speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote.
All those legislations were part of the mega plan, and yet Mike Johnson won't even acknowledge them. And on top of that, remember how so many politicians pretended to be outraged by what DOGE was uncovering?
We've recently spent $123,000 to teach youth in Kyrgyzstan how to go viral. Mr. Schatz, do you think that that's a good use of taxpayer dollars?
No, I don't.
I don't either. What about you, Mr. Rush?
No position.
No position. Okay. Got it. Let's do another one then. We've recently spent over $3 million from the Department of State for girl-centered climate action. Mr. Schatz, is that an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
Well, now we're hearing that DOGE is officially dead, with 8 months still left on its charter. So the question is, how did this happen? They promised to continue the mission of DOGE and slash all the excess spending to lower the deficit.
Well, let me say perhaps a few words that this is not the end of DOGE, but really the beginning.
My time as a special government employee necessarily had to end. It was a limited time thing. It's 134 days, I believe, which ends in a few days. So that it comes with a time limit. But the DOGE team will only grow stronger over time. The DOGE influence will only grow stronger. I'd liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life. So it is permeating throughout the government. And I'm confident that over time we'll see $1 trillion of savings and a reduction in $1 trillion of waste and fraud reduction.
Also DOGE. I think that's going to be a great committee, a great aspect to bring to Congress. But the DOGE recommendations are like the Constitution. If you can get my colleagues to follow them, they're going to be great. And so that's really the sticking point here. And I hope the president does use his position, the bully pulpit, to get Congress to cut spending, to pare our government down using DOGE recommendations.
But here's the ugly reality of American politics. Even though the GOP and the White House were out there praising DOGE, none of them actually wanted to codify it, to make it permanent and untouchable.
And Elon Musk had it right. And that's why I think both parties shunned themselves from him, because he said, hey, that was NGOs and money flows right back to Washington. And he told me, he said, I think it flows in the pockets of politicians. He told me the money flows right from your pockets to the dadgum NGOs. The NGOs, the money comes right back to Washington in the form of dark money and in the pockets of politicians. That's why you're seeing Republicans go squishy on NGOs.
If a piece of legislation backed by the richest man on earth still couldn't get through Congress, people like MTG or Thomas Massie don't even stand a chance. And that's why you're hearing rumors that multiple GOP members are thinking about resigning. They're finally being forced to admit that this country is drowning in a cost of living crisis.
I mean, moms and dads all across America tonight are going to lie down to sleep, and they won't be able to. What are they worried about? Well, they're worried about the cost of housing, for one thing. They're worried about the cost of home insurance. They're worried about the cost of flood insurance. They're worried about the cost of health insurance. We all know that. They're worried about the cost of living.
And yes, we really are in a crisis. We've all seen the clips of the First Lady Melania showing off that giant Christmas tree in the White House. But let me show you why a lot of Americans can't even afford a basic tree this year.
I'm walking past this Christmas tree farm in Soho, and I wanted to share that I came here. I bought 2 Christmas trees, $1,200 for 2 Christmas trees.
Hey, we're at Lowe's right now. I feel like these people are tripping, man. Who got money for a Christmas tree that's $700? Really? Am I tripping? I mean, like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me. It's gotta be just me. Is it just me?
And look, I get it. Christmas trees aren't the ultimate benchmark of affordability. But that sticker shock is showing up everywhere, in drive-thrus, in grocery stores, in rent payments.
Has Chipotle lost its mind? My son and I just got done at the gym with a workout. We went into Chipotle. We got 2 bowls and 2 drinks. And granted, we did get double meat, but we didn't get chips. We didn't get guac. $52.64.
For 11 items, I paid $40.38. You heard that right.
The 1 pound of ground beef I got was $9 a pint. A pint of blueberries was $6.
When was a box of cereal $9.29?
I'm here because my biggest problem is rent and the increase in it. And I want to bring it out because I need it to change. I get only $1,639 a month My rent is $15.74 a month, and that leaves me $65. And I have a food card that's TANF, and I get money there, which I add to it to pay my bills. I barely make it month to month. This is not fair, and they're going to have more homeless because they're seniors who live on fixed income and cannot afford this.
And politicians love to jump on this and swear they'll fix it. I'm telling you, they will weaponize it for the midterms. People on both sides. But nothing will be done. Just more empty promises. Let me give you one perfect example of this broken cycle. Ask literally any American, even the ones who don't own homes. They'll tell you property taxes are killing them. Because even if you're renting, your landlord just passes the tax burden straight onto you. That's a huge reason rents keep climbing. Now, there actually was one person who tried to eliminate property taxes in Florida, Ron DeSantis.
From the property tax situation, it's very important, given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens, who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it.
He made it a central issue, and yet he couldn't get it done. And now that he's leaving office, the guys coming after him are singing the same exact tune.
My name is James Fishback, and I'm running to succeed Ron DeSantis as Florida's next Republican governor. I'm running for Florida governor so I can make life more affordable for you and your family, easier to afford groceries, to buy a home, to raise a family, and when it's all said and done, to retire with dignity. I'll do that by stopping the H-1B scam so our workers, especially our college grads, can get jobs again. I'll tell Blackstone, Airbnb, and foreign investors that no, in Florida, you can't buy our homes because our homes are for families. And I'll stop the construction of any AI data center that threatens to raise our electricity bills or poison our water supply. And I'll completely and totally eliminate property taxes for every Florida resident. Because in America, you don't rent your home from the government. You own it, free and clear.
Now, I love everything he's saying, but you gotta remember, James is the same guy who spent months promising DOGE checks were just around the corner.
President Trump's DOGE dividend could be a really big deal. And it's really simple the way it works. You take all the money that DOGE saves, 80% of it goes down to paying the national debt, 20% goes back to taxpayers in the form of a refund check. Why? They were lied to, they were cheated, they were defrauded. Their money was supposed to go to bridges in America and veteran health care, and instead it was sent overseas for climate operas in Colombia and DEI musicals in Myanmar.
Most people only know his name because of these empty promises, and now he's promising to fix the thing DeSantis couldn't. That is the perfect snapshot of how fake our political system has become, and why you can't fulfill your campaign promises even if you actually want to. Now, next up, we gotta talk about Erika Kirk. I'm sure you remember she caught a ton of heat for that one clip with J.D. Vance. Well, now she's actually tried to explain what happened there.
They went to the weirdest places. Oh my gosh. You guys. Please. So for those of you who know me, I'm a very, I hug. Yes, like, you're an intense hugger. Whoever awesome. Is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give you a free hug anytime you want a hug. My love language is touch, if you will. But seriously, that hug. So I will give you a play-by-play. I'm walking. They just played the emotional video. I'm walking over, he's walking over, I'm starting to cry. He says, he's so proud of you. And I say, God bless you. And I touch the back of his head. Anyone who I've hugged that I have touched the back of your head when I hug you, I always say, God bless you. That's just me. If you want to take that out of context, go right ahead. Again, that to me shows that you need a hug more than anyone else. So if anyone... They were acting like you touched the back of his ass. I feel like I wouldn't get as much hate if I did that. But no, seriously, so now when I go and hug people, I'll bring them back in and be like, I obviously didn't give you the right hug. Like, come let me touch them.
So there you have it. If you didn't like the way she hugged JD, well, maybe you just need a hug yourself. Seriously though, let me know what you think about her explanation. I want to hear your take. Meanwhile, let me update you on what's happening with Charlie's case. Surely you remember George Zinn and all the crazy stories about him. Well, a freelance journalist managed to interview him in prison. And here's how George responded to all of these theories.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why would anybody want to think that I was involved in that? Everybody wants to tie me with every kind of crime in the country. And and I just don't need that. I'm here for what I did, and I wasn't even around during 9/11. I was in Denver. I'm here for what I'm here for. Well, people are just going to talk. People are going to talk, and I've had it, and I have nothing to do with any of that stuff. The only thing that I'm in here for is my cases. Nothing else.
It's a pretty wild clip because this is the first time he's behaving rationally, trying to protect himself from any more legal problems. We all remember how erratic he was right after the Charlie Kirk assassination.
That's the right to remain silent.
Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
How dare you! 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 You're such a monster! What a monster! Such a monster!
Back then, he didn't seem to care how deeply he got wrapped up in that situation. People were convinced he was willing to die over something he had nothing to do with. And that's why some people are even more convinced it was all a setup. He caused that distraction knowing he wasn't going to get shot and knowing he'd end up in prison no matter what. Almost like prison was a safe place, away from anyone who might try to question him too closely or push him for answers. Now, while he's finally talking to journalists, we might not be able to talk about Tyler Robinson anymore. You see, the prosecutors are now asking to expand the gag order even further. Yes, you heard that right. They want restrictions so tight that pretty much anyone even remotely connected to this case can't talk. Of course, they haven't clarified what that actually means. Does it mean silencing Tyler Robinson's grandmother? After all, she's been sharing some pretty intense claims with the media.
What's up, you guys? I just spent about an hour talking to Debbie, Tyler Robinson's grandmother. She said she wanted to set the record straight on some of the stories that came out. One, she never said that her grandson never fired a gun. What she said is that she didn't think that he would ever do anything like that. As far as she knows, he didn't have a lot of experience hunting, but may have used a gun before. Another thing is that it came as a surprise to her and the entire family that Tyler Robinson was supposedly gay. As far as she had known, that has never been the case. So she said that was a major surprise to her.
Or is the gag order meant to stop commentators like Candace Owens?
The conspiracy theory is that Tyler Robinson, who did not attend UVU, had never been on UVU campus, packed up his car that day, jumped onto a rooftop, figured out how to jump around like Spider-Man, and just knew exactly where Charlie Kirk would be seated, despite having never been there. Took one shot with a 30-06 that got stopped because Charlie eats spinach. He then makes a hasty retreat into a Dairy Queen where he texts every minute of what he did to his lover. And then despite going home to his lover, he decides the next day to still text his lover more about his dad. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's home, but they're still texting more because that's what you should do as opposed to just talking to him face to face.
And what's really interesting is that only the local media outlets are covering this aggressively. They're the ones sounding the alarm. trying to push back against this expanded gag order before it becomes official. And while the prosecutors in Utah are letting Charlie's supporters down, things aren't looking any better at the federal level.
This is big. We have learned that the Justice Department's case against former FBI Director Jim Comey and the New York Attorney General have both been dismissed.
Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
Yeah, James Comey walks away untouched, just like P. Diddy, who was being legally prosecuted by his daughter. Now, of course, people are furious because James Comey had become public enemy number one for millions of people who voted for the president.
So for Comey to think that we, the American people, are so stupid as to think that he, as a former FBI director, former prosecutor, and someone who clearly pays attention to what's going on, would believe his lie that he didn't know what this actually was calling for. The dangerousness of this, Jesse, cannot be underestimated.
But really, are we even surprised? Pam Bondi has repeatedly failed to hold any of these high-profile figures accountable. Time after time, it's the same outcome. And instead of owning up to any of these failures, they just deflect. Meanwhile, James Comey gets to release his victory speech, which is basically a slap for anyone who ever called him out.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price.
We need to talk about Sean Duffy because he's been saying some truly wild stuff lately.
People dress up like they're going to bed when they fly. So we want to push people as we come into a really busy travel season. Help people out, be in a good mood, dress up, bring civility back to travel.
He's out here saying all this at the same time when we're expecting record-breaking numbers of travelers crisscrossing the country. And according to him, if we all just dress better, suddenly air travel magically improves.
Ourselves, not just our families, but we think about those who are around us, and we call our better angels. In a busy time, and again, the airports are going to be packed. TSA lines may be a little longer, and as you might not be able to find a seat as you're by your gate because of the number of flights that are going out or coming in. But I think we have to think about how do we do a better job. How do we, maintain maybe some of that frustration we have as we travel this Thanksgiving season? Maybe we should say please and thank you to our pilots and to our flight attendants. I think, again, I call this just maybe dressing with some respect. Whether it's a pair of jeans and a decent shirt, I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better, which encourages us to maybe behave a little better. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come to the airport. I think that's positive. If we can help someone as we're getting on the aircraft that might need some help putting their bag in the overhead bin, and you're a little stronger, a little buffer, you've been lifting, stand up and, offer to grab that bag and put it up for someone who's having a more difficult time. Common courtesy and civility, I think, is going to work well. And I'd ask you to please be patient with our TSA and our gate agents. And again, they're working their hearts out to make sure that this is the best experience possible for you and the safest experience possible for you. And again, a little gratitude goes a long way. And if we all do that, I think we're going to have a far better travel season. And by the way, we're going to get to our families on Thanksgiving with a lot better attitude.
Now look, I'll get behind anyone who wants to dress up, but that's on them to decide. And I'll admit, I'm all for civility on flights. I'm also sick of lunatics screaming, fighting, and turning every plane into a viral meltdown circus.
Yeah, search him out, little boy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, little boy. Yeah, that's right, little boy. Yeah, I won't smack you right here. No, yeah. Watch him out. I'll back down. Little man. Yeah, little man. You're a little man. You're little. You're a little man. You're a little man. That's what you are. That's what I am. I'm fine until you started talking.
But I do want to ask Sean something. Would it matter if someone is wearing pajamas if the plane collides with a military helicopter?
You can guarantee to Americans that travel is going to go back to normal once the government...
That travel is?
Travel,
oh, yeah. It'll go better than normal. You know why?
When the government reopens...
Yeah, sure. It'll be much better than normal because we're buying the most sophisticated avionics and, technology for our control towers. And we didn't have that. We had a guy named Buttigieg. Edge, they say is the best way. Just say two edges, like off the edge of a cliff, which is where they were taking us, by the way. Edge was the Secretary of Transportation, and he spent billions of dollars trying to patch together our air traffic control system, which was a conglomeration of all different systems in all different cities. They had hundreds of companies working on it, and they were spending billions of dollars. And when they turned it on, it didn't work. It didn't even work a little bit. That's why you had a helicopter crashing into an airplane, that if we had a great system, bells and whistles would have started going off.
Would dressing better help anyone if the pilot is tripping on mushrooms and tries to crash the aircraft?
An off-duty airline pilot has made his first court appearance after he allegedly tried to shut down the engines of an Alaska Airlines flight while it was at cruising altitude. 44-year-old Joseph David Emerson facing 167 charges, including 83 counts of attempted murder.
Kate, a new federal complaint says that this off-duty pilot, Joseph Emerson, may have been taking psychedelic mushrooms while he was doing this.
And just for context, that guy is not serving any more jail time for nearly ending 83 lives.
Well, Pete, Nora, the judge told the packed courtroom this morning she did not agree with these federal charges being filed against Emerson. She said him losing his flight credentials and the sentencing that he received from the county should be punishment enough.
So if you seriously want to improve air travel, well, start by making sure passengers aren't in any danger. We can worry later on about what the guy in seat 14B is wearing. Now, this next story is pretty wild and wacky. Reports are floating around that the president is finally about to reveal something big about UAPs. And surprise, surprise, this story comes from Dan Farah, the same guy who made a documentary about UAPs.
That the Trump administration and his first administration contemplated going public with the base facts that he had learned, which are the simple base fact that we're not alone in the universe. And he was contemplating stepping to the microphone during his first administration to say that. Following the release of this movie, the president will have a much more comfortable set of circumstances to do that, to step to the mic and tell the world we're not alone. I think this film sets the stage for him to be the leader that steps to the microphone and tells us definitively humanity is not alone in the universe.
Now look, I don't fault him too much. He's a filmmaker trying to hype up his project. I get the hustle, and I respect it. My issue is with the media outlets that are amplifying this like it's some guaranteed revelation instead of just another tease. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a president talked about this stuff. We all remember what Barack Obama said about those flying Tic Tacs.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory.
And thanks to Marco Rubio, we also know presidents are usually kept out of the loop on the real classified details. We already know there's weird stuff flying around up there. And every once in a while, we get another weird video like this.
So we all just got woken up to some disturbing sound all through the whole area. I just called 911 and they said they've gotten like over 50 calls about it.
Redstone, these are some old Aztec sandstones, located 1 hour outside of Las Vegas. What are the ancestors saying? Or maybe what's built underneath these old dunes?
But just admitting something strange is happening doesn't cut it. We don't need vague hints. We need actual disclosure. And I don't see that happening, because whenever they wave the banner of national security interests, this administration, like every administration before it, suddenly goes dead silent. I mean, we all saw how they buried that drone story after President Trump entered office, even though he himself had suggested something unusual was going on.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows.
From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this stream. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and I can't wait to read your comments and see what you think about